What is going on, everyone? It is Tyler McKinney back here again. And today we've got some XFL news that we need to get into, and then we're going to break down the West. All right, if it's your first time here, hey, glad to have you. If you're a return viewer, thanks for coming back and thanks for watching more videos. And if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. And remember, leave me those comments down in the comment section. I love interacting with you guys and answering all the questions that you have. It's fun, and I like doing it, and you guys come up with some really awesome stuff. And speaking of awesome stuff, we've got a really good question. We've got Cameron Baker's asking, drafting on Saturday before the games, what do you think is the position I should prioritize? I'm thinking going with an elite wide receiver will be key. Well, Cameron, here's my thoughts. This is just my 2 cents. I haven't seen a down of XFL football. Really, none of us have. But if I was going to go through and I was looking at it, probably the position that I would prioritize would be a couple of things. One, I don't necessarily know if it would be wide receiver. Now, I think an elite wide receiver will be good to pick up. And I think that you definitely should look at good wide receivers. But I think that they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. To where a lot of wide receivers are going to be getting an opportunity to get the ball. Just my thoughts. To where I think that you're going to have the wide receiver stats are going to be a little bit more padded than maybe some of the other stats. What I would be looking for is probably more of a quarterback that you know is going to be in an offense that's going to be throwing the ball a lot. Or to be looking for possibly, now granted, I don't know if I would start out my draft with this, but I would definitely be looking for a strong running back that you know is going to be either getting a lot of carries. You know, I'm thinking Hood. Hood is kind of a guy that I'm looking at that's going to probably be carrying a huge load. So, you know, when I look at that, something like that with just kind of accentuating something like that. I know a lot of people are high on Truesdale down there in Tampa, and I think that he's a great asset to have, and I think he's going to be doing well. Some people are comparing him to Gronk, like it's the closest thing that they have to Gronk in the league. I don't know if he's going to be putting up Gronk numbers just because they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. Like I think that probably up to like 70% of what they're doing is going to be throwing the ball is the way that I look at it. So yeah, guys like Jeff Bidet and things like that. Yeah, definitely look at them. I don't necessarily. I like where you're going with it. I just think that, some PJ Walker, I think would be a good one. Taumau is a risk. I think if Josh Johnson, Cardale Jones, some of those guys are kind of gone, Landry Jones, then I would start looking at, definitely Taumau, because I think he could definitely, he's kind of a wild card to me. Aaron Murray, for some people, could be a wild card. A guy that could, put up some big numbers, because I think that they're going to be slinging the ball around the field a lot down there in Tampa. So yeah, that's kind of my thought process. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but I think that you'll be able to get more value out of, those higher picks with maybe, a running back, like I said, like Elijah Hood, or maybe, Artis Payne or somebody like that that's going to be carrying a heavy load, and that will be an integral part of their offense to where that I think that they're going to be throwing the ball around enough to where that might negate where an elite wide receiver would really stand out from the pack, as opposed to like a good wide receiver, to where you might be able to get better value out of having a really good running back or a really good quarterback, especially the quarterback, because I think the quarterback stats are probably going to be more padded, because I think that they're going to be throwing the ball around a lot, which means that I think that the wide receivers will be a little bit padded, but I think padded in the sense that the wealth is going to be shared around, as opposed to just one or two guys like you would naturally see. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that question. All right, we got some news that we got to cover here today, and we found out that the XFL, they're going to be doing their own pregame stuff. What is it? We really don't know. We know that they're going to be putting stuff out on all of their media outlets, their social media stuff, and that's what they're going to be doing. And it looks like it's going to be pretty fun. If you've seen anything from Elise Zwick, her social media stuff that she does. She's pretty active and she does some fun stuff, and I think that that'll be pretty cool. And she comes from the WWE. That type of vein. She comes from that community, that family of networks, and stuff like that. So, I think that she'll fit right in here with the XFL. And this is kind of just to get people pumped up. I think that this is really looking like their college game day. I don't necessarily think that this is going to be straight up all football. I think it's definitely going to be football centric, but trying to tie in everything on the outside and really kind of bring the whole story together and really kind of, I think what they're going to try to do with this is really kind of create just that feel that that they're more than just players out there on the field, that that you get to know these players a little bit more, these stories, the story behind the player, that type of a thing, especially like the story that that ESPN did this week with Landry Jones. That was like one of those heartfelt things, and you're like, man, I feel for the dude, and like you want him to succeed. After looking at that, I'll put a link in the description. It was a really cool article. The ESPN did a really good job with it, and it really just showed you, that Landry Jones is just a regular person like us, and he's getting an opportunity to do the thing he loves and follow his dreams. So good for you, man. And I hope that you're all ready to go to play this weekend. I really look forward to seeing you sling the ball around the football field again. It's going to be fun. So I really hope that you're ready to go this weekend with that. So yeah, we've got Elise, and then we've got Jonathan Coachman. We got the coach back, and he is talented on the mic. It doesn't matter really what he's doing. He has charisma, and he knows how to work a mic, and he knows how to work an interview. And so having both of them there with the personalities that they have, as long as they can work together, and they both are from the WWE family, so I don't see any issues there. They both are used to kind of the same rigors of work from working in WWE, that I don't think that they'll step on each other's toes. They'll be able to follow each other beat for beat. The thing for me is that, how are they getting this out? They say, it's going to be on their social outlets and things of that nature. But, are these going to be little tidbits of things? Or are these going to be things where we can actually sit down and watch them, like a college game day on ESPN or something like that? How is this going to work, and how is it going to do? I'm actually kind of a little intrigued by it. And like to see a little bit more with it. But, all in all, I'm okay with it. I think it's a good thing. And, the more that the XFL does things like this, the more they legitimize themselves. And especially, they give the audience and the fan more to care about, right? They humanize the players more, and, it makes you want to root more for them. You want to watch them. You want to see them. You want to see them succeed. So I think that that's good if they're going to go down that route with this. All right, let's go ahead and let's move on. We have finally received the roster depth charts. Yes, we've got the depth charts, and we never. We are less than 2 days away from our first game, and we're finally getting our, depth charts with this thing, and it's crazy. And we got them this afternoon, looking at them, and I'm going to give you guys my quick thoughts, and I'll break down all the players in a video. Don't worry, before the game start, you can check those out. I'll have those up. But just to give you my initial thoughts, here were the things that stood out to me. Rashad Ross and Trey McBride, both of those guys, you remember, they were both highly touted guys. They were both high draft picks, and they were traded. They were swapped. And so Ross went to D.C., and McBride went to L.A. Both of them are not starting. Now, caveat with Ross, though. For some reason, on the offensive side of the ball, D.C. is only starting 10 players. I don't know. Maybe they play a different style of football than the rest of us do, but there's 11 guys on the field. Obviously, I'm joking, but that leaves a spot open for another wide receiver, another running back to start. It could be Ross. I don't know, but right now they have him number 2 on the depth chart, so they have him in as a backup right now. Same thing with Trey McBride. Trey McBride is also considered a backup right now, so that was interesting for me. Now, Damo Pumphrey, he's backing up Presley, which is fine. I just thought that it was kind of interesting. We'll see how they utilize both of those guys. I would probably start Presley over Pumphrey, but maybe they'll be sharing the work. We'll see what happens there. I just kind of it was okay. Oakman isn't starting. he went through missed training camp, missed all that stuff. He is the backup though, so it'll be interesting to see how much he gets in the game and how much, if he is going to get into some games this year. I think that'll be interesting to see, as things progress, if he works into a starting role or works into a guy that's used a lot and comes into the game a lot. So we'll see how that works out. That was kind of an interesting one. And man, has Luis Perez had a fallen from grace? Good night, man. He is the third string quarterback for New York. Went from tier 1 quarterback, the guy, giving him custom-made shoes in LA, and now he is all the way. He went from West Coast, East Coast, and now he is third-string quarterback. That was kind of interesting to me that he has kind of fallen that far. Listen, he's a great talent. He's a good guy. He's a great guy. I hope to see him succeed, but that was kind of really interesting to me. Let's see here. A couple other things. Kenneth Farlow and Trey Williams. Both of those guys aren't starting. Actually, Trey Williams is the third string, which is kind of surprising to me with as much kind of hype around him and as much has kind of been put out there with him. So I don't know if maybe he's just kind of put in there as like a third stringer, but really he's going to be a guy that's going to be, we're going to see all over the field, which quite possibly could be it. But the thing that was kind of interesting more to me that Jaqueen Gardner is actually starting over both of them. And, I thought Kenneth Farlow might be the guy to get the start there. He played really well in the AAF, and especially with, him being back with his old coach, Mike Riley being the offensive coordinator. So, Gardner must have really taken the reins with this one and done that. So looking at this, that was kind of an interesting thing with me. And then rounding things out is that we've got Quentin Flowers as the third string quarterback. I thought that was kind of interesting. We'll see how if they use him on the field or if they don't use him on the field. And then finally, Randall Hall is going to be doing all of the returning for the Vipers. But the cool thing with it is, he's going to be the third string quarterback, and he was kind of that story that they did. If you remember, he started out as wide receiver, and then they moved him to cornerback. So, looking at that, I thought that was kind of neat. He's going to be starting, returning, kick returner, punt returner, and that. But, he made the team as a cornerback when he was originally brought onto the team as a wide receiver. So it's just cool to see things like that, guys persevering through things and continuing on. All right, so let's go ahead and now let's dive into breaking down the West. I think that the East is going to be a much more competitive conference or division, however you want to look at it, than the West actually is. I think the West is really going to be a two-team race, and I think that they're going to jump out and they're going to run with it to the end. So as I look at this, I look at it, and the thing that really kind of sticks out to me is whether or not Dallas is going to have Landry Jones. If Landry Jones is only going to be out a game or two, and Nelson can manage those, and then Landry Jones comes in, doesn't miss a beat, I really see them around 8 wins. And, I don't see, really, especially when it comes into the playoffs, I don't see anybody beating them. I think that they just have all around probably the best talent, and they probably have the best talented quarterback, especially quarterback for what they're wanting to run, what they're wanting to do. I think they have just the personnel that they need there. They've got Jeff Badette, who's going to be great at wide receiver. They got Artis Payne, who's a guy that you want in that type of a offensive system. And when you got a guy like Landry Jones who knows the ins and the outs and has been running that type of an offense for a very long time and knows it, and they've got a fairly decent defensive personnel as well, to where I see 8 wins with them all day long. It could slip to 6 or 7 if they can't get Landry Jones back, or it takes them a couple games to get things back going. I think they'll definitely lose a couple games. They'll have a couple stinkers here and there, but all in all, you'll see them as a championship contender. Houston Roughnecks, I think that they're going to be a championship contender as well. As I look at this thing, I was kind of rooting for Connor Cook just because, hey, he wasn't one of the top tier quarterbacks, and, it'd be kind of cool for him to supplant a top tier quarterback. But PJ Walker is, really won this job, and he's the type of quarterback that you would want in a run and shoot type of offense. He's going to accumulate a lot of yards. They've got the guys around him to do it. They're going to be running a lot of stuff in that run and shoot offense. I think that they can take advantage of that and, win a bunch of games. I just think when they come up against the Renegades, I think the Renegades are going to have more firepower than them and be able to beat them that way. That's just kind of the way that I look at it. So I've got them at 7-3. A solid 7-3 is where I feel that they would sit. We'll see what happens with that. That's just kind of my thoughts there. Now, for some people, this might be controversial. For, others, man, it seems to be that they're just mixed feelings about these Dragons, these Seattle Dragons. And I must be a lot higher on them than what most people are. But I'm looking at about 5 wins, maybe 4. I mean, with all of the negativity, people saying they're only going to win 3 games and stuff like that, maybe that's kind of pulled my optimism on them back some, and kind of BJ Daniels being the backup because of, how electrifying he could be, maybe kind of puts that, nothing against Brandon Silvers. I think he did a fantastic job in the AAF, with that, and I think the guy's got an arm. Listen, Mike Riley did a very good job in San Antonio, and it's like they got the band back together. They've got a lot of the same pieces or same type of pieces. Jim Zorn, very good coach. I think that these guys are going, I think they're going to be better than what people think that they're going to be. I just feel like that's it. And I think that they're going to win some games that maybe people think that they shouldn't. And so, I've got them at 4 or 5 wins, 5 there. I don't really see any more than that, but that's kind of, mid-road. And then LA, a lot of people like LA. I just have really some concerns with LA, just with the way that they roll. So Winston Moss, I like his swagger, but he reminds me a lot of Mike Singletary, and that really scares me. Singletary had a couple good seasons there of coaching, and then it's just like he fell off, and then in the AAF, he just was not good at all. You could just tell he was definitely outcoached. Now, Winston Moss is that type of a person. He has that swagger about him, and I really, really like it. However, when I look at this, it just concerns me because I see this tough guy and really creating this tough guy atmosphere. Tough guy can only get you so far. You need to be able to not only be tough guy, but also be able to take advantage, of the other team and exploit the weaknesses and look at this, from an X's and O's type of things, not just we're just going to go out there and, we're going to give more than them and this and that. When you've got talent that is this close together, you need to find an edge and that with it. Now, they might do that, and that's totally fine. They could. I see them right now at around 4 wins, 4 solid wins. I think that, especially if Josh Johnson does not get healthy and they can't get him on the field, I think that he really right now is their key. He is their key to running this whole offense. If he's not available, their offense is really going to decline, and I think that they're planning on relying on Hood. I think Hood is going to get a lot of carries. I think he's going to do well, but I think he's going to get a lot of carries, and I think that they're going to be in a lot of slugfests, and so I think 4 wins is good with them because I just think that the other coaches are going to outcoach Winston Moss, and that's just the way I look at it. I mean, and a lot of it, too, comes down to, like, some of these weird personnel, like with these trades and not having the right personnel and, trading your tier 1 quarterback. Now, granted, I know that Josh Johnson's considered a tier 1 quarterback, too. But to not even want him on the team anymore and totally go somewhere else, and then the guy who tore up the AAF, trading him for another guy and then bringing in another guy who was a top pick, but now he's not even starting. And then you had a guy on your team, you kicked him off the team, and then he missed all of training camp, but then you re-signed him, and now he's on your team again and looked like he could get some playing time. Like I said, just personnel just kind of just baffled me, just kind of leaving me like, huh? So as I look at that, I've got 4 wins for them. So let's go ahead and let's work that down again and recap. I've got Dallas with about 8 wins, 8 wins. I've got Houston at 7 wins. Seattle at a ceiling of 5 wins, probably somewhere around 4 wins, and LA with 4 wins. And so that's kind of how I'm rounding, all of this out and looking at the West. That's kind of how I feel it'll work out. I feel it'll be Dallas and Houston, and I think they'll have a big game, and I think that Dallas will win, and Dallas will get a shot to win the XFL championship in the XFL championship game. So, guys, that's how I feel about it. Those are my thoughts. The question is what do you think? How are you going to go ahead and, rank or pick the West? Let me know down in the comment section, how you're going to pick the West and what teams in what order. Let me know what they are and how many wins you think that each team is going to have. All right, well, I know that you're busy and I know that I'm busy, so let's get on out of here. You have a good night. Bye.